Coming up, Dan Mullen makes his first appearance at SEC Media Days as Florida coach, and Gators fans are excited about a brand new era. We'll talk about it all next, right here on SEC Country Live. Hello everyone and welcome to SEC Country Live. My name is Brandon Adams. This is the former Alabama All-American Mike Johnson. Good to have you with us as SEC Media Days continues right here in our hometown of Atlanta. A busy day today with Georgia and Florida and Ole Miss and Arkansas, and we'll talk about all four of these programs over the course of our time together here today.
Yeah, we definitely will, and I was down at SEC Media Days today, and it's so interesting to see it from this side, so I can't wait to hear all the comments kind of come together.
Yeah, it's a guy that was once there as a player, and now there as one of those nasty, stinking media members, and he's having a good time on both sides of the ledger there. But let me dive in with topic number one here on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. Dan Mullen is no stranger to SEC Media Days. He's had a million of these going back to his time as Mississippi State coach. But as we sort of speak here live during the 3 p.m. Eastern Time hour, Mullen, the Florida Gators, kind of going through this for the first time with Mullen as the brand new coach of Florida. And Mullen, of course, as was his tradition going back to his time at Mississippi State, sort of showing off. Do people still call these kicks? Are they still called kicks?
Listen, hey, you're talking to the wrong guy if you expect me to go down. I think that's what I still call them, but I mean...
Back at Mississippi State, they were an Adidas school, right? He was always showing off Adidas brand shoes. But now for Florida, Mullen showing off the brand new Jordan brand, Florida-inspired shoes here. This is a part of what Mullen is using for his debut at Florida. Let me show you this on the screen here, kind of how Dan Mullen's getting the Florida era kicked off there. You see Mullen with the Gators branded Jordan brand shoes here. And I guess this is somewhat symbolic of that new era for Florida in many ways, right?
I definitely think so. And when you talk about Dan Mullen and you listen, he's visiting the frat parties, right? He's doing the whole thing. He's got the X's and O's in his corner. He feels like he probably has a very good team this year. The J's kind of coming along with it. I think it's kind of a new era, if you will.
How much do you think Mullen, and to a lesser extent Jeromy Pruitt, who we'll see later on in the week, how much do you think that their need to impress this week, or their need to make people believers in their team this week going into the 2018 season is sort of colored by some of the stuff that Jimbo Fisher said yesterday? We played the audio for you here on the show where Fisher said, hey, we're going to try to win quickly at Texas A&M. Right. You know, Kirby Smart really did win quickly at Georgia in his second year. He won the SEC, got to the college football playoff, and sort of did all of that. How much do you think Mullen is sort of feeling extra pressure given the fact that other programs are trying to rev up and ramp up at the same time? And obviously one of his biggest rivals, Georgia, sort of put together a blueprint that Mullen's going to be challenged to follow here.
I think you'll hear more of that from Mullen than you will Jeromy Pruitt. I think when you talk about Jeromy Pruitt, this is still a guy easing into a head coaching job, right? Dan Mullen's been around the block. Jimbo Fisher has a national title. Dan Mullen has at least been a head coach before. Jeromy Pruitt's never seen that at any level. So I think Dan Mullen kind of diving into that this week, I think it's going to be a little bit bigger deal than Jeromy Pruitt.
So Cliff Nelson in our YouTube comment section talking about, I asked if people still use the word kicks. Cliff says he calls them sweet kicks. Now, I think of Cliff as being sort of a with it happening cool guy. If Cliff Nelson in our YouTube comment section is still calling them kicks, then from that standpoint, I feel like kicks is probably a word that's still okay to use. He also asked, will it help him recruit? And I think the tie with the Jordan brand, it can't hurt. Now, I don't know that apparel wins as many recruits as some of the apparel reps and salesmen want to make you seem like it does, but it can't hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it can hurt. Now, listen, I wouldn't have based my college decision off of, what kind of brand you're wearing on Saturdays, but some recruits do that, and some recruits look at that to be a big deal. You're also getting a lot of this, kind of swag from your football team. You're getting the workout shorts, you're getting the jumpsuits, you're getting the shoes. So maybe that plays in a little bit. I don't see how it helps Mullen right now, though.
Bo Molinari in the YouTube comment section says they should put a visor on the jump man, kind of in honor of
that'd be kind of cool.
The great Steve Spurrier era, which always wore a visor. I actually kind of like that from Bo Molinari a little bit. But how about Cedric Snow in the YouTube comment section, who says, with all the Jordans I've bought in my short lifetime, I wouldn't even think about buying these. So the orange and blue Jordans not impressing Cedric Snow, who may be a bit of a sneaker file here.
Yeah, I can't say that I go, listen, I think there's, some people that love to buy the sneakers. I can't say that I would go in and buy the, the Nike Houndstooth version for the Alabama football team.
Do they have those?
Yeah, they have, the game day shoes, or the gamers, like they call them, that you can buy, like the game day shoes that a lot of the coaches wear. They have like the Houndstooth on them. Most schools do that, I think.
Yeah, you don't
Nike
strike me
schools.
as a big sneaker guy.
Listen, man, I've got some shoes on. That's as long as I can walk in them, I'm good.
Quentin Flanders, though, who is a Florida fan, says it's a marketing tool for recruiting. Players love J's. J's are a lifestyle. I believe believe in this case J stands for Georgia.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And listen, I think that stands for a lot of the people that we could possibly talk to that might be recruits. I think there are some recruits that feel that way. I think some recruits look at it and say, "Boy, this is swagged out. Like, I'm feeling really good. Let me get this photographer in here. Let me hold the trophy. Let me do all these things." I don't think it's much, but I think maybe 1 or 2 recruits a year look at that as a big deal.
Now, if you're curious, I am not wearing J's today, to use Quentin Flanders' phrase. I'm wearing the same brown loafers that I wear about half the time.
Show the back of those things. Oh, my God.
Some of these things. These things have been through the ringer, but you know what? Walk a mile in a man's shoes, and you'll see, kind of what he's been through.
I don't know if you got a mile left in those things, man. Those might fall off
my
a quarter
feet
mile.
I'm telling you right now, my feet are nasty.
Yeah,
I have always had nasty feet.
Ooh,
all right, let me do item number 2 here on our SEC Come July 1st and 10 list, because another one of the coaches showing up at SEC Media Days today was Georgia coach Kirby Smart. And as you might imagine, Smart was asked a lot of questions about quarterbacks. Some because of Justin Fields, the hotshot incoming freshman. Some because Jake Fromm, the seemingly cemented and established starter, has had a bit of an adventurous offseason, going back to a few weeks ago when he broke his non-throwing hand in a boating accident on the week of the 4th of July. Well, Kirby Smart, and he sort of alluded to this a few times in sort of captured audio, referencing Chris Lowe and things like the ESPN, has seemingly had no problem with this. But he made his most forceful statements today about not having issue with Fromm's injury. And I actually think this is really interesting for reasons that go beyond just who's going to start at Georgia at the quarterback position for Georgia. Here is Kirby Smart sort of deflecting any criticism of Jake Fromm for breaking his hand on the week of the 4th of July. Here's Kirby.
It's simple conversations, really. I talked to his dad, and I texted with him, but I don't know if you call them late mishaps. I mean, they're kids being kids. Now, the difference is about them. Take that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I'm at University of Georgia, and there's 7 of us that all room together, and we're all out on the water doing something. None of y'all would know. So why do you know exactly what happened? Because of social media. So that's the only difference. We're acting like this is a big deal. It's only a big deal because you know about it. Things like this happen all the time that you don't know about. We had guys with broken arms and broken feet and broken wrists and broken hands in the summer when I played that nobody even knew about. There was no microscopic coverage of them. So I'm not going to stop letting a young man live. I think it's great that he goes out and does those things. I think it's awesome because that means he's not sitting at home playing Fortnite all day.
So you hear Georgia coach Kirby Smart there, and I love the line there at the end when he talks about how he'd rather his guys be on the leg than at home playing Fortnite. And this is such a crucial issue for me. Forgetting Jake Fromm for a moment, forgetting in that kind of stuff. Like, I got a 6-year-old boy. He already likes the video games. I do not want my son getting addicted to these dang video games. I don't want him going to become another Derek Skies. I don't want him playing, Fortnite, 100 hours a day. So the fact that Kirby says, you know what, I'd rather him be on the lake breaking his hand than at home sedentary playing Fortnite. I love that from Kirby Smart.
I do too, and I think that speaks to the. I'm not trying to dive too deep into this, but I think that this speaks to Kirby's brand as a head coach, like as a recruiter. I really do. I think this speaks well of what Kirby's brand is as a recruiter and as a head coach. He's a young guy. He's an energetic guy. He's a outdoorsy feeling guy. It's like he wants his players to get out, and that aura kind of comes out in recruiting to me. I think whether he means it or not, that's the aura he's going for to me when he gets on the recruiting trail. That's what Nick Saban's trying to catch up to, in my opinion, in terms of the recruiting. I think that Kirby wants to put that kind of vibe out.
And, he was very consistent about this back in 2016, sort of forgiving Sony Michel, former Georgia running back, who had a bit of a ATV accident back then. He dealt with a fairly significant injury coming from that. Kirby had no problem with that either. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think this makes Kirby Smart sort of look like a more fun coach to play for. I think that only helps with recruiting. The other thing that comes up from Kirby Smart at SEC Media Days today, though, is the notion that Justin Fields is, according to Kirby Smart's words, essentially not heading for a redshirt year. That tells me 2 things here. It tells me that he's seen enough from Justin Fields to know that Fields can play college football. How much he plays, I guess we'll wait and see. But he thinks that Fields is ready. And this is also an issue with Georgia simply not having a very legitimate backup option if Justin Fields is not the guy. They really have nowhere else to turn to on that.
Yeah, and to me, what's interesting about that, too, is you see people starting to navigate what they think the redshirt rules will be, right? The redshirt rules coming out to where you can play in 4 games. Essentially, what I'm hearing from Kirby Smart is we need this guy to get better. We need game time for this guy.
Yeah, Justin Fields is not a candidate for the new
Right.
redshirt rule.
They've got to have him play.
Barring injury, he's going to play a lot more than 4 games.
Right. That's kind of what my thought is with this entire thing. Is you got to have this guy that's playing. You got to have him be a part of this program. You got to see him on the field. You can't sit on the bench and say, "Boy, if we need him for 4 games, let's get him in for 4 games." It's one of those things that sooner than later, this guy's going to have to be on the field, and why not go ahead and get him out there?
How about this one? This got nothing to do with anything, but Bo Gilbert in the Facebook comment section says, I plumbed Dan Mullen's house in Lake Oconee here in Georgia. He couldn't figure out how to work his dishwasher. I can neither confirm nor deny that story, but that's what Bo Gilbert put in the Facebook comment section there.
That's pretty good stuff right there, man.
But yeah, so I think when it comes to some of these, truly talented SEC teams, the 4-game redshirt is actually less relevant than some other schools. A place like Alabama, you're either good enough to play as a freshman to play like 9 or 10 games, or you're just not good enough to play at all. And at Georgia, I think it's a lot of the same kind of stuff, and a lot of other SEC schools could sort of fit in the same discussion. You're either good enough, they're going to play you 11 games, or you're not going to be able to get off the bench at all, no matter if you've got 4 free ones or not. Justin Fields is an example of that. If Fields is your backup quarterback, Georgia's going to play him a lot more than 4 games.
Yeah, I don't think so much. To me, it's not so much the haves and the have-nots. I don't think it's an Alabama-Georgia thing versus a Vanderbilt-Missouri thing. To me, it's you have 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So I think if Justin Fields is a 3rd-string quarterback, then all of a sudden you get to some of these games. So, boy, let's see what he's got. What do we have to lose? Let's get him in the fire. The fact that he's a backup, you don't want to get late in the season, say the Auburn game, for some bad reason, Jake Fromm get hurt, and then all of a sudden, boy, Justin Fields hasn't seen the field.
But you understand what I'm saying about you mentioned Vanderbilt, Missouri teams like that. They have the kind of freshmen that you want to play them for 4 games now so they can be better the upcoming year.
Yeah, for sure.
There's just too much competition for like the upper half of the SEC, and I don't include Missouri in that upper half. There's just too much competition. A lot of those schools are not going to have as much opportunity to take advantage of the 4-game redshirt because they're either going to have super talented 4- and 5-star freshmen that beat out incumbents, or they're going to have so much depth ahead of them, they're just not quite ready yet, even if you gave them the 4 free games.
Yeah, to me, I think it's a situation-by-situation basis where you say, listen, if we've got to get this guy work, let's get him some work. If we have the ability to get this guy some work, I think we do it. I just don't think they have that ability right now in the Georgia room because, like I said, if Jake Fromm gets hurt, then all of a sudden they're in an emergency situation where Justin Fields has to hit the ground running.
Yeah. All right, let's do item number 3 here in our SEC Country Live 1st and 10 list. And, when we first found out that SEC Country was going to be closing down on June 30th, we always knew that here what we do on SEC Country Live would, to a certain extent, be kind of put at risk here as well. We always knew that our future was going to be uncertain. Many of you asked about that. You were very kind to do so. And the one thing that I think Mike and I were both very consistent on the entire time this discussion was being had is that we were going to keep fighting to keep this show on the air at its normal time and its sort of normal format, as long as we possibly could. And we hoped that was going to be 50 years from now, but we were never going to stop fighting to deliver this show in its current situation at 3 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday through Thursday. I am so proud to say that as we have sort of battled through all of this, we've had a bunch of people that you've never met, that you've never heard of, that you don't see on camera, who fought just as hard alongside us every step of the way. I'm so proud of all the effort that's been done to keep delivering this show, even beyond June 30th, to still be here as we head to the middle part of July, keeping on going with SEC Country Live. It has been one of the great privileges of my life, and hopefully a lot of the transition and changeover behind the scenes you haven't really noticed as much because we've just been able to keep delivering the show. The reason why I bring that up to you, though, is because we always knew that to a certain extent we were going to be fighting against the tide that could potentially bring about change. And as it stands right now, some change is coming. We have been talking behind the scenes, and it is now obvious that this week is going to be the last week that we can deliver this show live every Monday through Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be exiting the SEC Country Facebook page after this week. Now, I can look you in the eye and look into this camera and speak to you and say that I am still very optimistic and excited about the future of what Mike and I are going to be able to do together. Mike is someone that I greatly enjoy working with. Mike is someone that the time that we've spent doing SEC Country Live has been some of the most fun professional work that I've ever done. And it is not like flippant or just, puffery when I say that we're going to try to deliver the kind of arguments that we have, the SEC content that we deliver. We're going to try to do this more in the future. And we're going to try to find our way here over the next couple of days to explain to you exactly how we plan on communicating all of this. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't really just sad that this is not going to continue in its current form at 3 p.m. every single day like it has. Admittedly I am. And yet at the same time, I know some of the stuff that this guy's got going on. I know some of the stuff that I've got going on. I know some of the potential plans for the things that we're going to go do together. We're not going to disappear. We're going to do our best to communicate with you, and I'm just really grateful for the fact that I've got a chance to address you on this subject right now, completely clear, completely transparent. We'll take as many comments on this as you want to. We'll answer whatever questions for you we can. And, Mike, it's an opportunity that not everybody in the broadcasting world gets to sort of speak directly about stuff like this. I've been on shows that have just been yanked off the air. You never got a chance to really say goodbye. And I'm also grateful that while we will be using this week as a time to say goodbye, I certainly have a lot of optimism that it's not a goodbye forever.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of positive feelings as well. And honestly, I'm going to try to fight getting choked up here just talking about it. But we've had an incredible run, and it stinks the way it's kind of planning out. I think the worst part of it for me is not only not being able to see you on a daily basis and chop things up the way we have. It's the friends we've made in the comment section. Yeah. It's the people we've been able to talk to on a daily basis. So that's the downside for me. Hopefully there is an upside on the other side of this, and we're going to keep fighting. And I promise I'm going to keep everybody updated with what I've got going on, and hopefully it's a lot of good things. But that's going to be the toughest part for me is all you guys on a daily basis. I mean, I literally have become friends with some of you guys, and being able to really talk about SEC football. Really, you mentioned it. It's been one of the best parts of my life.
Yeah, I mean, Mike says that it's going to be hard not to get emotional about that. I feel very much the same way, and it's not just the connection that I form with Mike. It's also the connection that I form with all of you in the comment section. It's something that has become a really important part of my life, really, to come in and have this conversation every single day. And I like getting ribbed by you guys and gals. I like having some good-natured fun at your expense. I like what we get to do. And while we do this show on video, we got somewhat fancy lights and fancy screens and pretty logos and things like that. The thing that I never wanted this to be was I never wanted to be a TV show. A TV show is someone who thinks they're better than you, putting on a suit and tie and sort of talking down to you. That's, if you watch ESPN, you get a lot of that kind of stuff. If you watch major national television, you get a lot of that kind of stuff. And on this show, what Mike and I have always tried to do is say, it is on video, but it's the opposite of TV in many respects. It's us sort of facilitating a conversation that's bigger than just all of us, and it's been a thrill to be able to do that. So I want to jump in and get a lot of comments on this, and we'll just talk about this as much as you guys want to. And then listen. Also, we'll keep talking about this throughout the rest of the week, but we also kind of want to go out doing what we did to start with, which is talking about the SEC. So we're gonna get back to content and do a lot of that kind of stuff, but we also want to obviously address this in any way that you want to. So we certainly appreciate that. Cole Roster says that you're the only Bama person he likes.
I tend to get that a lot, man. I don't know.
Listen, that comment alone has been my sort of favorite thing about SEC Country Live is the fact that people say that kind of stuff, and I sort of know where they're coming from. It is hard to be an Alabama. I mean, you're a former Alabama player. You come by, the Alabama stuff authentically as possible. You played at Alabama, you played for Nick Saban, and it has been cool to watch fans of other programs, LSU fans, in some cases Auburn fans, although not as many.
That's so true.
It's been very interesting to watch people sort of embrace you in that regard. I'm proud of the fact that despite the fact that I'm, a huge Georgia homer, as many of you would say, I get along with the Tennessee fans in this comment section. I get along with the Auburn fans and the Florida fans in this comment section. It's always been kind of cool that this has just been a conversation sort of separate from the angry stuff that you see in other respects on the internet.
No, and I think that's the best part. And you said it earlier, where this was never meant to be a TV show. This is a round table, and you happen to be a Georgia guy, and I happen to be an Alabama guy. But we truly, I think, in my opinion, we consider people in the comment section co-hosts. I mean, that's listen. I played with guys that are on TV now. I played with guys that are in suits now. And it does feel like a lecture sometimes when you turn on the TV, and that's the last thing I wanted this to be. And I think that's what's made this show so special is that a year and a half ago when we started doing this show that I wasn't who I am right now. And I've changed a lot, and you guys have changed with me, and it honestly has been an absolute pleasure to sit in front of everybody.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I want to take a lot of comments here. Mark Chambers says, is this the SEC commissioner's doings? No, Greg Sankey's not shutting us down. Andre Harris says, awesome show, excellent host, best of luck. Andre, appreciate that. Dalton Cook says, explanation. I think the simplest thing to say in the form of explanation is that our parent website, SEC Country, did cease operations on June 30th. And we said, hey, we're going to keep going beyond that. And it was a huge win for us just to even be given the freedom to kind of come back and do this show that following week. And we said, if we can just be on the air on July 2nd, we'll keep going as long as we can, And we were able to do that. And I think the thing that we're going to say here is, and this is not just like an exaggeration, like we're going to keep trying to work together and putting things out there. We can't tell you all about it right now, but we can tell you this, that the SEC, the YouTube feed that you watch this show on is not going away. The podcast platform that you listen to the show on is not going away. So if you're not currently subscribing to our YouTube channel, please do so. If you're not currently subscribing to our podcast feed, even if you're not a regular podcast listener, that's also a good way to keep up with what's going on here. We're going to be telling you a lot more and putting out a lot more, content, but that's what we can certainly tell you as far as that goes today. Mike Wallace says it's a sad day in the SEC. Mike, I certainly appreciate that. Quentin Flanders says, respect to you both. Appreciate the shows you've provided. I definitely see you guys being able to pick it back up just on a different stage. And yeah, listen, I think that the one thing that about Mike and me is that we love this content. We love what we're doing here every day. So there's certainly going to be no shortage of energy on our part to keep delivering a lot of things, and a lot of that's going to be surprises. Some of that's going to be stuff that you expect, something that it looks like he and I are doing something like this again very soon. But certainly in Mike's case, it could be some fun and surprises here coming up in the very near future. Let me pop over to YouTube here for a moment. Mike Johnson says keep those YouTube alerts on. I think that's a great point. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. That's a good way to kind of keep all this updated on when things change. Shane Bentley says, thanks, BA and Mike, for all the awesome coverage that y'all have done. And he says, Mike, to you, go Dogs. Tyler Mann says, we should get a petition going to keep the show alive, even if it's on a different network. So, Tyler, in form of a petition, I would tell you that the best way to sort of sign a petition, so to speak, is to sort of follow these other channels. Follow the YouTube, follow the podcast. We're going to try to introduce a Twitter feed that you can all follow, and just keep that going so we can communicate with you on that. Katie McCarty says you should do it from Mike's truck. That's kind of a funny line. While driving, yeah, that's not a bad idea either. Cliff Nelson says, if I wasn't at work right now, I might punch something. This sucks. Well, Cliff, please don't go getting in trouble at work, but we certainly appreciate your words on that. Michael Ward says maybe the other conferences are behind this. Maybe a team up between the ACC, the Big 12 to do all of this. Maybe some sort of conspiracy. Listen, I love the idea of being the victim of a conspiracy, but in this case, I don't believe that's true. Logan Westerman says, anyone else feel like you did in high school when your girlfriend said, I think we should take a break?
That's how I feel.
Well, listen.
That's how I feel.
Anyway, we'll keep the conversation going here. We're going to get back and talk a little SEC here, but we'll keep taking comments on this all day long. And really, I think the best way for us to go out over the next couple days, and y'all won't disappear on us just because of what we said here. I think the best thing to do over the course of the next couple days is mix in some content, do some chatter, and just take a lot of comments here, and really kind of go out doing what I think we kind of made famous in this show, which was being as interactive as we possibly could. So with that said, we'll kind of jump in this and move on to item number 4 here for right now on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. A player that I have called maybe the best high school player that I ever saw live and in person was Rashad Evans. When he went to Auburn High School and ended up choosing the University of Alabama, had a great career as a linebacker, and Rashad Evans now moves on to the NFL. And Evans had a great interview the other day with the sports radio host Jim Rome, and Rome asked Evans about his relationship with Nick Saban. And as I got to play for Nick Saban, I'm curious to hear your take on this, your thoughts on this, about Evans saying how the relationship with Saban evolved over time. Take a listen to the former Alabama linebacker here.
I think as a coach with him, I think he has to kind of fill you out as a player. If he understands that you're a mature guy, that you are truly there to really be the best that you can possibly be, he's going to be lean on certain things. And, I felt like, as I got older and matured, I think he began to be more lean. He depended on me a lot more. He trusted me a lot more. And that's something that I earned. It's not something that I walked into and was like, you're going to make me wear this jersey. I'm going to wear this jersey. You're going to put me in this position. I'm going to play that. It's not like that. It's more of you proving to the guys, not only upstairs, but the guys that's in the locker room as well, that you deserve to be able to play and be able to wear that jersey.
And by the way, on our Facebook comment section, someone's been kind enough to link a spot on the YouTube page there that you can follow there on YouTube to kind of keep up with everything we have going on. Whoever did that, I appreciate you doing that. That's Michael Carvel on the other side of the glass here does that for us. Really appreciate that. So if you go to the Facebook page, go to the comment section. It's pinned in there right now. And for those of you on YouTube, of course, continue to share this with your friends. But on the subject of Rashad Evans for a moment, he says that over the course of time he developed enough trust with Nick Saban that Saban sort of became a little more lenient with him. If I'm, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's sort of the gist of what you got there. More lenient with him over time there. Did you see the same kind of thing from Nick Saban? Now, it's fair to point out you were only with him for 2 years, so that's not as much time as Evans got a chance to spend with him. But how real is what you hear Rashad Evans describing to you based on your own relationship?
Yeah, no, I actually spent 3 years under Nick Saban, and I think what he's trying to say is not only did Nick Saban become a little more lenient, I think the reason Nick Saban became more lenient is because Rashad Evans started figuring out what Nick Saban needed from him. You know what I mean? You get there as a freshman, and you have to go through the decruitment, and it's like, hey, you know what, I don't feel like going to the study hall. I don't feel like waking up at 6 a.m. to go to these workouts. And when you do get to the workouts, you know what, I don't feel like running that 20 in the sprint at full speed. I don't feel like doing that. And over time, you grow to understand that that's what's expected of you. It's not expected of you to just get through things. It's expected of you to do it the best of your ability. And I think that what Rashad Evans is talking about is the fact that he learned that over time. Nick Saban understood that finally Rashad Evans got that, and that's something Rashad Evans has also been able to carry over into his professional career.
Over on the Facebook comment section, given the state of our news here, Josh Griffin says that Jeromy Pruitt just hired Mike and BA as head of media at Tennessee. Go Big Orange. I don't know that either one of us would be welcoming him as the spokesman of Tennessee, but
so.
certainly a nice thought to think about there.
No, it definitely is. And listen, I'll appreciate the plug any way I can get it. I don't think we'd be welcome to Knoxville, though.
Galen Jacobs says, I still hate Bama Mike, but I wish you nothing but the best, and I'll be following your progress. So I guess that's one of those, that's a thank you, I guess, from Galen Jacobs there on that.
I'll take that as a thank you. Listen, love and hate in all different directions. As long as you kept interacting with us, I guess that's all you can ask for.
Abby Geis in the Facebook comment section says, I'm a Georgia grad and a fan, but I live in Alabama now. I listen to Dog Nation daily and this show almost every day. This week I've been listening to a Birmingham radio station. I heard Mike earlier today. I enjoy listening to both of you, and I look forward to seeing what you do next. So that's the great thing about Mike. Not only is there a very good chance that he and I are going to be doing a lot more together in the months ahead, Mike's also kind of a media gadfly. He's certainly not going to have any shortage of media appearances here anywhere in the near future. Right?
I hope you're right, and there has been a couple of opportunities pop up for myself, and that's why we want you guys to make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel.
Completely.
You subscribe to the YouTube channel, we can keep you up to date on what we're doing so that when in the future we do have the opportunity to get back in front of you, you know exactly where to find us.
Christopher White in the Facebook comment section says Colin Cowherd may be behind this, SEC hater.
Cannell behind.
Yeah, Cannell could be behind
Cannell.
this as well. You never know. Mark Chambers said, did love to have Louisiana seafood with you both someday. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, especially after y'all kind of convinced me to try the crawfish. I don't know if y'all remember that a couple months ago. I said I'd never had crawfish before I tried them. I loved them. It's
Yeah,
great.
no, listen, man. That's to me, that's the essence of the show. Being able to talk about things like that. That's what's going to make me more sad than
Kevin
anything.
Chapman says it's not you, it's me. I feel like I've been told that a couple times myself. William Gunning says WDE, so an Auburn fan checking in. Maurice Carter says worst news I've heard all year. Maurice, we certainly appreciate that. But listen, in honor of all the people who have helped us do the show and all the people who've sort of made the show what it has been over the more than one year and a half century of doing the show, we're trying to go out with a big bang here and going to try to make you proud in the weeks and months to come. And we'll continue to sort of communicate with all of you about how you stay in touch with us. Let me go to YouTube here for a moment. Deidre Frazier says that YouTube actually made the experience better with the feed, and it was kind of funny. I don't mind getting into the technical part of this. Obviously, most of the people who found the show did find the show because of Facebook. It's just a nice distribution platform. But it was funny over time to watch people migrate over to the YouTube page, and it became kind of a cool thing of kind of seeing people who sort of decided that was better. And listen, I mean, I've got no complaints in the world about anything because, I mean, imagine this. We've worked for a company and an employer that allowed us to simulcast this thing on Facebook and YouTube. Then we had started doing the show on Twitter. For a while there were 3 different platforms you could find this show every single day. So, when I look back on this time, for me, there's nothing but gratitude because of the trails we were able to blaze and the new platforms we were able to explore. It was a cool level of freedom, and nobody ever came in here and said, "Hey, we need y'all to talk more about this or talk less about this." We always had the freedom to talk about whatever we wanted to do, and my barometer for what we did was almost always solely based on what are people responding to, what do SEC fans care about, and yes, I always heard from the Arkansas fans, the A&M fans, and various fans like that said you're not talking enough about my school, and I have great respect for that, and certainly understand where that was coming from. But we've had an incredible level of freedom and an incredible level of just commitment behind us for a long time. So while I hate that this is the last week, I would have kept on doing this for the rest of my life, I guess. I have to say that it's been cool to be supported the way we've been supported.
Yeah, no, I feel that way too, and to feel that, and it's like we said earlier, it's not just from Bama fans for me or Georgia fans for you, to really to be able to interact with fans from LSU and Mississippi State and whoever else was able to come on the show in the comment section. Like I said, I wasn't sure what I expected when we got started with the show, but that was something that was a pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people in the comment section who were Georgia fans were asking me about Dog Nation Daily, the show that I do in the morning. Nothing about Dog Nation Daily is changing. That's going to continue the way that it always is. Hopefully you'll still come on Dog Nation Daily and be a part of that from time to time. I mean, obviously I love picking his brain about Georgia football, and if you're not a Georgia fan, you have no idea what Dog Nation Daily even is, but a lot of our Georgia fans also connect with me on my morning show, and that's going to still be in place the way that it always is. It's really this show that right now is impacted by change here. Logan Westman would love to see more Alabama talk from Mike. I'm sure we'll see him doing a lot of that in the time to come, and we'll keep taking a lot more of your comments here as well. Roy Dale says, let's say go Hogs. In fact, let's talk a little Arkansas right here. We got number 5 on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. SEC Media Days going on in Atlanta today. That's our hometown, and for the very first time, Chad Morris makes an appearance at SEC Media Days. Arkansas head coach, you were in the room when Morris was in the room. Did you get a sense for kind of how the media was responding to Morris there today?
Yeah, to me it was interesting too when Chad Morris walks in the room, because you have a guy like Kirby Smart that was already kind of working the wire, right? He's kind of making his way through, and Kirby Smart brings an aura with him, right? He brings a posse, I guess you want to say. There's people all around Kirby. When Kirby comes in the room, things get louder. The volume turns up. Chad Morris didn't have that for me today, and I think that's something he has to work on. I think raising the profile of the Arkansas program is something that's going to be on his desk for years to come. I think getting back into the winning ways will be one thing, but bringing that excitement back to their brand of football. I don't think you saw that today at SEC Media Days. Chad Morris was sitting next to me. I told you this before the show. Chad Morris was sitting next to me for 20 minutes on Radio Row, and I had no idea he was in the room. And I think, to me, that's number 1 on his docket at Arkansas. We saw him rappel from the roof, kind of switch places with the guy on stage a couple of months ago. That's the excitement he's trying to bring, and I think he's on the right path to doing that. I think SEC Media Days will be another step, and I think getting in the win column a number of times this season will be another one of those steps.
Tony Godot, and I hope I pronounced that name correctly, in our Facebook comment section says he just subscribed to the YouTube page. We really appreciate that. And listen, this is not going to be a dormant page. You're going to see some stuff pop up on there, and we'll be telling you a lot about fun things coming up in the future. So yeah, it's a huge help to us if you will subscribe to what is currently called SEC Country Live there on YouTube. Check that out and subscribe to that, and we'll be able to communicate a lot more with you. Change is inevitable in this respect. Coming to you live every Monday through Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to be a little bit different, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with what you see over there if you check out that SEC Country YouTube page, and if you subscribe to the podcast. SEC Country Live is currently the podcast name there where you find podcasts. Subscribe to that as well. Tony, I really appreciate that. That's incredibly nice of you to want to support us in that respect. Appreciate that. Mark Chambers says, Mike Johnson, BA, great memories, whatever you do. Keep it exciting, brothers. We certainly appreciate that. Galen Jacobs also said he just subscribed. Appreciate that. Gary and Christian Gilisano says, BA Mike, what am I supposed to do now at 3 p.m. at work? I got to work now? So disappointed. And listen, for us, that was always a big part of this is, before we started, because a lot of y'all don't remember. In fact, most of you probably don't know this, but if you go online, you can find these. The very first time we ever did these shows, we did them at night for 1 week, back in 2016. Is that right?
Yeah, it was Alabama, Florida SEC championship.
We did a week's worth of shows. It was kind of like our pilot, if you're familiar with that phrase in television. I had sort of been pitching the idea of, because we had done, like, if you were to go back to like early 2016, we had done some video stuff on SEC Country, but it wasn't live. It was just sort of me. I was, standing there and interviewing people, whatever. And I said, what if we did something live? What if we did something kind of like that? And so I said, what if we did it for SEC championship game week leading up to 2016? We did it at night, and I thought it went great. It went well great, enough that our bosses said, all right, let's come in there and let's do it again for do it for real, do it every day. And we had a chance to do that, but the question became, what time do we want to do it? When is the best time to do it? And the idea I always had is, let's do it when people are at work. And obviously, if you're at work, you can't watch it every day. Many of you have to miss a day for whatever reason, and can't watch a whole show when you do. But our thing is, you don't have to be here every day, but we want to be here every day for you. So it's like your, smoke break, coffee break, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Go check out a little SEC talk. And for me, that's always been one of the most fun things about it is we were that sort of afternoon break for people. Listen, I know what it's like. Way before I ever did stuff like this for a living, I had just a regular old job, and I know what it's like to want to take a break from sometimes what can feel like a job that you need to break from. Hard work. A lot of y'all work really hard. I know what some of y'all do for a living. You work really, really hard, and being able to provide that break from folks at work was always a cool thing for me.
Yeah, the same for me. And obviously I got done playing football a few years ago and wanted to stay around the Atlanta area, and this provided me the opportunity to do that. And it provided me, I never once felt like I was coming to work coming into the studio. I didn't. And I think that's a tribute to you, and I think that's a tribute to all the fans that really have supported the show, that I never considered this coming in to do a job. I considered this coming in to have fun. This was the highlight of my day, not the downside of my day, and I hope that everybody out there felt the same
James
way.
Lucker in the Facebook comment section says, I'm going to be subscribing to the YouTube page as well. Thanks for all the love that you show for SEC football. James, that's really nice of you to say. Speaking of YouTube, let me pop over here, because the last thing I want to do in our last week of doing this is get more criticism from the YouTube folks for not taking care of them in the comment section over here.
Right.
So we'll try to do that. Tyler Mann on YouTube says, it's always been an awesome break for me a couple hours before I clock out. Now what am I going to do? We certainly appreciate that. Kevin Blackman says he enjoys coming here and trashing the other SEC teams in the comment section. Morgan,
we know you do, Kevin. We know you do.
Morgan Recton says, BA, will you accept a Gator on Dog Nation? Absolutely. We've actually had a few Florida fans that sort of migrated over, and they watch Dog Nation daily every single day. And I think that you'll find the commenters over there will be very welcoming to you, Kevin, Morgan. So we'd love to have you check out Dog Nation daily. Cliff Nelson says, definitely the best part of my work day. And Cliff has always been one of our one of our A-plus commenters. He's one of the commenters that I sort of remember as far back as almost anybody.
Yeah.
A lot of the LSU guys that comment have really been with us seemingly as long as anybody has. Shannon Burgess is kind of that way. Cliff Nelson kind of been that way. Esteban Esteves was one of our really early commenters. That LSU contention in the comment section has always been among the most passionate we had.
Yeah, really. I mean, Shannon Burgess, Bo Molinari, the names can go on. I mean, really, Greg Steele.
Although Greg has yet to say a nice thing about it.
Maurice Carter's. I mean, we've hung out with a lot of you guys on a daily basis. I'm not lying when I say this, and this is from the heart. It's gonna stink on Monday.
No doubt.
It's gonna stink.
Shannon Burgess, who's an LSU fan, says about migrating to new shows. He goes, hell, I watch Roll Tide daily. If you get an LSU fan to watch an Alabama show every day, you know you're doing something right.
You're doing the right things, and I think that's just a trademark of the kind of fans we've had sitting here and been able to interact with.
All right, let's do item number 6 here on our SEC Country Live First in 10 list. Bad news for Tennessee, although I don't know that it's incredibly consequential. Ryan Thaxton is a defensive lineman who did not play in his freshman season there at Tennessee in Butch Jones' final year, but going into Jeromy Pruitt's first year, dealing with a little bit of a criminal issue here. He's got the false imprisonment, the sort of a domestic violence type deal here. Yeah. Tennessee gives a statement to the Knoxville News Sentinel here. Let me read you this from the Knoxville News Sentinel about the Ryan Thaxton criminal charges. He says, we are aware of the incident. Student athlete has been suspended from all team activities while law enforcement and the university investigates. I don't think this is a hugely big football issue for Tennessee. Now, in the case of Thaxton, you hope that either these charges are proven to be untrue, or he's able to get his life back on track. For him individually, you hope this is the wake-up call that he needs to sort of, if the charges are true, the allegations against him are true, that he gets his life on track. For Tennessee, this is also a chance, I guess, for Jeromy Pruitt to sort of establish the kind of discipline standard he wants to have for the team, and I imagine that Pruitt's going to use it this way.
I think he will, and this is a tough situation. I read into this. I read some of the charges, the police report. Evidently, this guy, his girlfriend was trying to leave. They were arguing. He kind of pushed her back in the room and closed the door, and he gets the false imprisonment charge and the domestic assault charge for shoving her. It's going to be interesting to see the way Jeromy Pruitt comes about this. I think this is Jeromy Pruitt's, his opportunity, I guess, to kind of make sure he demands the best out of his players. But you also want to make sure that, the player understands what's right is wrong and, understands that maybe he gets the opportunity to land back on his feet.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope that for him. And, I do think that you see a lot of examples of this from coaches when they first take over a program. Not that they want something like this to happen. You would never want allegations like this to pop up. And at this point in time, they are just allegations. But for coaches, I do think that it's important to sort of establish a baseline for how the discipline is going to be handled at your program. And so there's a phrase in politics, never waste a crisis. This is a crisis certainly for Thaxton, who's dealing with these charges, but for Tennessee, it's a crisis not to be wasted. It's an opportunity for Jeromy Pruitt to say, here is how things are going to be handled here at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to say, and I don't know if that came across in the right way, but what I was trying to say is I don't know that this provides that opportunity. I think that obviously when the words domestic assault nowadays or false imprisonment, when those words are brought up, it's always up to the coach to say, listen, we're drawing a line here. But this wasn't a huge thing of domestic violence, and so I'm going to be interested to see what Jeromy Pruitt goes about it. If he does come down hard and this guy gets kicked off the team, I think it's going to turn a lot of heads inside of that program because this is not the overly crazy charge that you would think, and I think that it's going to be. I think a lot of Tennessee fans are tuned in to see what happens.
Item number 7 on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. Kirby Smart speaking to SEC Media Days today, talking a little bit about the 5-star transfer, Demetris Robertson, a former freshman All-American at Cal, coming to Georgia. What we don't know yet is he eligible in 2018 or 2019. And Mike, I guess I was a little bit surprised that Smart didn't use the pulpit more today. And by pulpit, I mean the platform that gets to stand on. Coaches can sometimes use this like a pulpit. I was a little bit surprised he didn't use this more to say, and I tell you what the right thing to do here is. The right thing to do is make this kid eligible. And I hope the NCAA does it. He sort of took a different tack, which is he wants him to be eligible. He wants him to play in 2018, but hey, we have to wait and see what the NCAA does here. I thought that Kirby might try to exert a little bit more influence today. It seems like he sort of sidestepped that just a bit.
Yeah, he did, and I think he's got a lot of other things going on in terms of what he's paying attention to, and he's paying attention to the upcoming season. I think what Kirby might be worried about, and I think all coaches when it comes to some of these transfers worry about this, and also talking about freshmen, is we don't want to take away from what the season could be this year. We don't want to take away from the players that have been inside of our program. We don't want to take away from the work we have been doing in the offseason. So if he doesn't become eligible, then all of a sudden you've wasted time in a platform talking about something that might not come to fruition. And I think some coaches look at that as a disservice to the players that are in the program.
Steve Quinn brings up a really interesting point. He says, if Robertson's eligible at Georgia and Josh Belk's not eligible at South Carolina, then it's total BS. And Steve, I know this may come across as self-serving. I think the one difference there would be is that Belk had just gotten to Clemson, whereas if Robertson sits out this year, it'd be 2 years in a row that he's missed, because he missed virtually all of 2017 with an injury. He took a medical red shirt for 2017 already. So I don't know that the Josh Belk situation, you'll remember that as the former 4-star Clemson signee who ends up at South Carolina because of his own version of a hardship. It is a little different between Belk and Roberts in that respect.
I think it definitely is too. And the hardship thing too. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of the situation, but I know that a lot of people I went to college with dealt with very tough family situations. And I think that's why you have to look at this on an individual basis and not make judgment in terms of, what it has to do with football or what it could impact, the college football playoff and do all these things. Let this kid be a college kid. If he wants to move home and be close to family because of a tough situation, that's what you should be looking at.
Van Bird in the YouTube comment section says you can't bully the NCAA. Kirby's handling it well. And Van, you may be absolutely right about that. Alexander Rain says the fact that he was injured and missed all of last season should automatically qualify him to start right away. And maybe that's what ends up happening, just given the fact that there's a sort of a different climate around the SEC right now. Perry Williams says about Demetris Robertson, I still feel like he should be eligible. It wasn't in conference. It was a hardship transfer. Let him play. I think most fans at this point in time kind of agree with that. Let me get a few more comments. Shane Bentley has a good idea on the YouTube comment section. He says, on the last show, can you guys give your predictions on how the coming season will play out? It would be probably kind of a fun thing to do.
I think so too.
Both in terms of some short-term predictions and some long-term predictions. I think that'd be kind of a fun way to kind of go out a little bit on Thursday.
I think on Thursday I might bring a cooler of beer down here and sit it right in front. Maybe crack a top. I'll give you all the predictions y'all need because I think that you guys are owed that. We've talked about it a ton. What we think that will happen in the upcoming season, and we'll put it on some paper.
Jamie Blanton says. Belk has never played. He's talking about the South Carolina transfer. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought you had to be enrolled during the season before you considered needing an exception. The truth is, Jamie, I'm not an NCAA rules expert. I don't know that Mike would classify himself as one of those either. So the honest truth is I don't 100% know about that.
Yeah, Cliff Nelson says in the YouTube comment section, Christian Fulton should be eligible at LSU too. That's a completely different circumstance, Cliff. That is a guy that skirted around a drug test from everything I've read about Christian Fulton. So I don't know that he's going to get the benefit of the doubt in a lot of different ways. Maybe he'll be eligible, but I don't think it's the same circumstance.
Hasheem Spikes, the reason why you saw me sort of fiddling with my microphone, Hasheem Spikes said my mic fell off. I don't know if that's the version of how you got some on your shirt, but you got me to look. Is it not coming through? Because it is still attached here, so hopefully the sound's coming through the way that it's supposed to be there. By the way, Tim Glover says about Demetris Robertson, welcome to the SEC. He's going to be in for a wild ride. That's very interesting there from him on that. Let me get a couple more Facebook comments when it comes to this kind of stuff. JC Howell says just subscribed on YouTube. Yeah, for those of you who are just joining us, let me reset this conversation, then we'll kind of jump back in a little more SEC content. So we explained earlier that this week is our final week of doing the show every Monday through Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Country Facebook page, and that Mike and I are definitely eager about working with each other again, looking forward to doing a lot of stuff in the near future, and we hope to be able to tell you a lot about that. But for now, what we can tell you is that in its current form, broadcasting live as a simulcast here on YouTube and Facebook, that it is going to end after this week. And it was really important for us to be able to come on here, say an appropriate goodbye, and give you a chance to find out how we might be doing stuff in the future. So we'll talk a lot about this week, and I think Mike and I are both incredibly optimistic here, and so we want to just go out in a very fun way, have a great time, and invite you all to communicate with us. So please subscribe on YouTube. For those of you who are podcast listeners, please subscribe on the podcast. Even if you've not tried podcast before, it'd be a great chance for you to kind of connect with one of those so you can be in touch with what we have going on. And we'll tell you, we'll be as transparent as we can about all of this as we sort of roll through the week here. Yeah. But we do want to just open this up to a lot of conversation. For those of you who are subscribing on YouTube, certainly appreciate that. All right, item number 8 here, SEC Country Live First and 10 list. This happened yesterday. We didn't really have a chance to get to it too much. I wanted to spend some time on this here today. Some pretty outspoken comments by Kentucky running back Benny Snell, who I thought may have been the most snubbed guy in the SEC on some of these top 10 lists. We talked the other day about the USA Today list for top 10 running backs. Benny Snell doesn't show up on that list. He does not get a lot of attention because, in large measure, Snell's just not playing on a very good team. Yes, Kentucky's been to a bowl, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. Kentucky's just sort of the outside, looking in when it comes to the elite conversation. But giving a chance to speak to media here this week at SEC Media Days, Benny Snell touts his own skill set. In fact, in comparing himself to the rest of the SEC, he thinks he compares pretty favorably. Here's Benny Snell.
I feel like that if you're a good player, you'll forever be good. You're forever, your value is better wherever you are. So to my freshman year to now, I feel like I'm the best I've ever been. So my time's now.
Are you the best running back in the SEC?
I am the best running back in the SEC.
So he says, I am the best running back in the SEC. I have no problem with this. Now, I don't think Benny Snell's one of the 5 best running backs in the SEC. I'm taking at least 2 Alabama running backs. I'm probably taking at least 2 Georgia running backs. At that point in time, you can start debating, who gets that number 5 spot. But the fact that Snell thinks this of himself, it's not like he's never played a game before. He's got some pretty well-established credentials. So this is not controversial to me. This is. I got no problem with him saying this.
I don't either. And honestly, I don't think he's that far off. When you talk about
it's not the most unreasonable thing I've ever heard.
When you talk about returning running back numbers, and when you talk about numbers for guys that are coming back to school and who were the leading rushers last year, I think he had maybe 1,350 last year in terms of yardage. That's a pretty good year for an SEC running back. And he is the bell cow back. And yes, he's getting all the carries at Kentucky where you do have players at other schools splitting it. But I have no problem with what he's saying. We're talking about a guy who we covered last offseason who has a tattoo on his stomach that says Snell, yeah. And so
Yeah, you're right.
That's his brand. That's going at it
Yeah.
and saying that's his brand. I'm laying it all out there. This is what I think of myself. I won't fault the kid for it. I think he's a very good running back.
I mentioned Greg Steele in the comment section earlier, who I said to this day has still never said a nice thing to me in the comment section. He's a huge Florida fan. Greg says, "Love you, BA, just busting, I'll say chops." He said something a little different than that. And listen, I've never had a problem with that. Greg is one of those guys in the comment section that sometimes I'm reading the comments while Mike's speaking, because that's really the only way you can get the comments on the show.
Right.
Is I have to sort of be looking at them while Mike's talking, so I'm listening to him with one ear, listening to whatever is happening, audio, something like that, on the other ear, and then reading some of these. Sometimes Greg's comments will legitimately make me laugh out loud because of how sometimes well placed and salty they are. So I've always enjoyed that. Michael Clyburn, by the way, a huge Mississippi State fan, says he's sort of going out on a parting shot here. Just to let y'all know, BA, Mississippi State will contend for the SEC, and I got to tell you, I am fascinated to see how Mississippi State looks in this new world order of the SEC West. Moorhead comes in with a lot of people believing he's a very intelligent, very smart coach, and this is not a bare cupboard at all for Mississippi State. If you start looking at some of those key cogs on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is a player that anybody would want. Montez Sweat's a player that anybody would want. Leo Lewis is a player that anybody would want. There are a few pieces in that Mississippi State defense that I'll go along with Michael Clyburn here. He's probably more optimistic about the Bulldogs than I am, but there's no denying that when you think about really top-flight defensive lines, Mississippi State's not taking a backseat to much of the SEC West, and virtually all the SEC West has a pretty good-looking defensive line.
And listen, the Mississippi State fans are not taking a backseat to anybody in the comment section. And we've heard from Mississippi State fans over the course of doing the show to where they feel really good, and they should. I think my concern comes down to what is Joe Moorhead going to be, and is he going to try to change what made all those players so good? That's my only concern for Mississippi State this year. Nick Fitzgerald, he's become a top 5 quarterback in the SEC, being Nick Fitzgerald. Are you going to all of a sudden make him throw the ball around more? Are you going to turn into this spread, Texas Tech style of offense? That's what concerns me. But the pieces are there, and I'm excited with you. I want to see the heights that Mississippi State can get to when their program really is set up to make a run this year.
Lawrence Robinson, to go back to Benny Snell for a moment, the Kentucky running back. I don't know if you may have mentioned this a moment ago. I'd totally forgotten all about this. He says about Benny Snell that he was unfairly ejected from the bowl game.
Yep.
Did you bring this up?
I did not bring this up.
Do you remember it happening?
I do remember it.
It was a huge topic right there at the beginning of the calendar year because, it was like a really weird, brain freeze blunder by an official, and Lawrence Robinson says that could give him a lot more motivation for this season. I had forgotten all about that, but I don't know that Lawrence is wrong about that. I do think that's a little extra motivation for
I can't remember exactly why it happened, why he got ejected.
The truth is I wasn't watching Kentucky's bowl game. I'm not going to lie to you.
I was, and I can't remember why it happened, but I remember having to pick my jaw up off the floor and say, oh my God.
Was it like an excessive celebration or something like that?
Might have been something.
Y'all tell us.
Might have been he shoved somebody and he got caught
that's
up in a punch.
That's what it was. Honestly, I don't remember. One of y'all have to tell us. The honest truth, I don't remember on that. Anyway, let me hop over here and do item number 9 on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. Ed Orgeron met with the media yesterday at SEC Media Days, and it's kind of funny. Something that Orgeron said yesterday was very similar to something that Orgeron had said at his first SEC Media Days as the full-time LSU coach a year ago. The fact that for LSU, the barometer, the measuring stick, is not changing at all. It is still Alabama. And Ed Orgeron thinks that there is a pretty good chance here that LSU, in his mind, is closing the gap at least a little bit with the Crimson Tide. Here's a very positive appraisal of the situation of the Tigers from the LSU coach. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, I think each game is different. I think when you look at that first game, it was 0-0 going into the fourth quarter, and we toe-to-toe with them. Their quarterback made some very good plays. You got to give him credit. They hung in there. We didn't finish the game. I think if you look at last year's game at Alabama, it was a physical contest. We felt that we could handle them physically and compete with them. And that was the first time I think our players felt that in a while. We missed some plays. We had DJ Chark open. We didn't hit him. Their passing game gave us problems. And their quarterback made plays, and we didn't. Give Coach Saban and his staff the credit. They won the football game. Almost is not good enough against Alabama. But we feel that a couple of plays here and there and continue to be physically, we're going to be right in there with them.
By the way, just to clear things up, Bruce Eklund, Cheston Wainscott, and others in the comment section says that he got accused of bumming a ref there. And
the ref was going to help him up, I think, and he didn't want the help. He was like, I don't want the help, and so the ref got really mad and threw him out.
Yeah, which is totally ridiculous, bird brain. But nonetheless, Ed Orgeron there talking about the state of the LSU-Alabama rivalry. What's your take on what Orgeron says there and kind of where this thing is heading into another big showdown in Baton Rouge, a place where LSU has been close before?
I don't fault him for saying what he is, and I don't think he's not speaking facts. I think that if you're Ed Orgeron, though, talking about Alabama at this point in time doesn't really serve you any good. Pointing to them and saying they're the benchmark, we got to get there. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I think LSU has enough pride and their fans have enough pride to say, listen, we're focused on us. We're focused on what we're doing now. We're focused on getting through the schedule. We're not focused on Alabama. For Ed Orgeron to kind of step out of line and say, we're circling that game on the calendar, and we're always excited to play that game, I don't know if that fits what you want to hear from Orgeron. But I don't think he's wrong. I think LSU has been step for step with Alabama in a lot of different ways over the last 6-7 years, whatever it's been since LSU has won. And I think they're going to have the opportunity to make that game close once again.
I'm a little surprised that you're saying what you're saying, because if I'm an LSU fan, the way that I feel is, if you want to go back to 2011, playing twice in the same season, LSU wins the regular season game, loses the national championship. It felt like these two programs were essentially carbon copies of each other. Hard to tell one from the other. And then over the course of the next few years, especially once you get to 2014, things really started changing for this rivalry. So if I'm an LSU fan, I'm thinking, well, it wasn't that long ago that this really was, how do you compare against Alabama? And all of a sudden now it's sort of, it's almost like LSU's stature has dropped a bit to the point where it's comparing itself to other SEC West teams. As a fan, I'm sort of fired up here if I'm an LSU fan by the fact that Ed Orgeron still wants to be measured against the best. He could say, hey, we just want to,
right?
We want to
get
not beating Auburn, because
right.
LSU beat Auburn a year ago. It's beating Alabama, and by the way, the question frames the answer. He was asked about the fact that LSU hasn't beaten Alabama in the last 6 tries. So he's sort of forced to talk about this. He doesn't sort of insert this on his own. He's sort of forced to talk about this, but he doesn't shy away from it there. He could say, yeah, we haven't beaten Alabama. We beat Auburn last year, and Auburn was a good team. He could sugarcoat this, but he doesn't really seem to. I don't know.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, but to me, and this is just the football perspective from me looking at it, and obviously Bama and LSU fans will chime in on this and let me know how they feel about it. But from the football perspective, I feel like LSU's had the talent to be right there, and I feel like they've had the football teams to be right there. I feel like there's been a couple of details every year that's been missing. Just a couple of details that have made the difference in that football game for the last few years. And so I think that's
one
why.
One of those things, a quarterback?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, listen, it's not like Jalen Hurts has been lighting the world on fire when it's been in those games. And so I think the interesting thing for me to look at is Ed Orgeron's basically saying, hey, we haven't gotten the details right. We haven't, the small things. We've had the talent. We haven't gotten the details right. That's what he's got to get changed. And I feel like focusing on that's the only thing that's going to turn that tide.
All right, item number 10 here on our SEC Country Live First and 10 list. Ole Miss coach Matt Luke making his first appearance as the full-time head coach at Ole Miss here at SEC Media Days. He sat down with the crew from the SEC Network, and he talked about the change that he's bringing to Ole Miss. And it sounds like he thinks the dark cloud of scandal that sort of hung over the head of Ole Miss, it sounds like he thinks that's behind Ole Miss now. And the continuity that started last year with his interim job now gets carried over to 2018. Here's how Matt Luke described what he's doing to help make Ole Miss great again.
Well, you know what? I think the biggest thing is just to continue to build in that culture. I think continuity in this day and age is really, really important. To have the same offense and defensive coordinator coming back. We have a lot of returning starters coming back. 7 on defense, 8 on offense, and we can really build on the culture that we started. Because I think everything that these guys have been through have really brought those guys together. And I just want to build on that. When you walk into our facility, you see those guys fighting and competing with each other. They get up every morning at 6 o'clock and they're running, and they're coming in the afternoons, they're lifting weights, and they're pushing each other to be better, and they're competing for each other. And that's what I'm most proud of this football team.
So I hate to be critical, but this line of thought from Matt Luke falls really flat with me. This misses the mark in a big way. I don't think that Ole Miss has moved on from the scandal yet. I think that Matt Luke is not the kind of coach of the stature that's able to do that. I think they're putting way too much stock in one Egg Bowl victory over Mississippi State here, and I don't want to come piling down too hard on Matt Luke, but this particular sell job from Luke's just not working on me.
Yeah, I don't blame him though. That's the thing is I don't know what else. If you're Matt Luke, I don't know what other angle to take. I think you have to be positive. I think that's what recruits are looking for. I think that's what Ole Miss boosters are looking for. I think that's what the entire fan base is looking for. So I don't know what other avenue Matt Luke is supposed to take right now. He's not supposed to say, well, we're going to beat the tar at everybody, or we're going to do this. I think he has to take that angle.
I can't think of a word though that is less applicable to Ole Miss than continuity being important.
Yeah, well,
I mean, if I'm Ole Miss, if I'm Matt Luke, I'm selling nothing but clean break, fresh start. But the problem is, he's like, I was here last year. I sort of got going. Now you want to keep that continuity, and I feel like no, I actually kind of want to put a little bit more distance between the Hugh Freeze era and now. And I didn't hate everything that Hugh Freeze did there, and I think that Hugh Freeze is going to coach one at some point again. I think he's probably going to be a pretty good coach, especially as an offensive play caller here. This is sort of a weird sell job by Matt Luke. It just doesn't work for me.
This is a little bit off topic, but I did want to mention this before we got off air today. One of the most shocking things from SEC Media Days for me today is how big Jordan Ta'amu is.
Oh, is that right?
Like, he stared me dead in the eye. And I'm 6'6", and Jordan Ta'amu was every bit of 6'5", walking around in his suit.
Did he tell you to stop talking trash about it?
I saw him from the back, and I was like, oh my God, that guy is huge. And I guess he just looked slight next to some of his teammates, but seeing him in person today, that's a big fella, man.
You think he's as good as everybody else seems to think he is?
I think that his receivers are very good, and I think their passing game is very good. I think some of the throws he makes leave some things to be desired, but I think that Ole Miss fans are very happy with Jordan Ta'amu and the role he's in with Shea Patterson leaving the building. I think they're very lucky to have Jordan Ta'amu.
All right, so the rest of the week, a lot of comments. We'll be kind of free-flowing. We'll do some of the SEC stuff, but we just want to chat and really honor this time that we've all been able to have together, and I hope that you'll be a part of that. We do love to close the show the same way every single day. We're always looking for champions of life, and we'll still keep looking for them throughout the rest of the week. I thought The Athletic did kind of a clever thing. I had a chance to talk to Tennessee coach Jeromy Pruitt about one of Pruitt's most embarrassing moments. Do you remember the TV show Two-A-Days that briefly aired on MTV? Well, at the time, Pruitt was the defensive coordinator for Hoover High School. Hard to imagine how quickly his career has ascended to the point now where he's Tennessee head coach. And during one of the episodes, Pruitt let it be known that a fairly popular vegetable, he had never heard of it. Here is Pruitt then to take us where we're going today. Here's Jeromy Pruitt from the MTV show.
You got to put Max in a position to challenge because he's so hard-headed. He's got to prove to you.
You either got to tell him he can't do it or embarrass him, where he basically just gets mad.
You two guys have been good for each other.
What is that?
It's asparagus. You don't like asparagus?
I ain't never heard of it.
Y'all try, Gary. Probably good for your stress and stuff.
My stress.
I love the fact that even back then as a high school teacher, Jeromy Pruitt was so stressed out apparently that somebody said, hey, you need to eat some asparagus for your stress. I also love the fact that Pruitt had never heard of it before.
Yeah. No, I love the fact that he's got, first of all, almost a full head of hair.
Right.
It's starting going back.
It's sort of like the old Simpsons, like Homer Simpson, when they show him like with hair, like when he's growing up.
Yeah.
It is a little different look for Pruitt.
I think what's also crazy about this is 10 years ago. Like, you know what I mean?
It's not 100 years ago.
This is 10 years
This
ago.
has all happened in 10 years for Pruitt. But nonetheless, The Athletic caught up with Pruitt about the subject of the unknown asparagus, and he says, listen, he knew what it was. Here's the quote from Jeromy Pruitt on this that he gave to The Athletic about the asparagus. Let me show this to you on the screen. He says, I knew what asparagus was. Just when they brought it out, it just didn't register. That's what Jeromy Pruitt recently told The Athletic. You buying that?
I want to buy it. Listen, I love my guy Jeromy, and I want to think that he knew what asparagus was, but when you hear that twang in his voice, I don't think he was eating asparagus very often.
Alexander Rain says asparagus is delicious. It's really one of the only vegetables I like.
I love asparagus.
As y'all can tell, I'm not like the most consummate connoisseur of vegetables.
The greenery.
I did have a little asparagus last night in my dinner, and I like broccoli too. But those are about the only two vegetables I can eat in stomach.
I love it. I wonder how much now with that new paycheck coming from Tennessee, I bet he eats asparagus more often.
Logan Westman says he prefers hops over asparagus. I understand where he's coming from on that. Tyler Mann says Jeromy Pruitt had hair. That really is sort of the most shocking part of the whole video.
I know. I had friends that were on Two-A-Days that went to Hoover High School, and we always crack up looking back at that show, man.
All right, so for the rest of the week, we're right here for you at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Please come back. Tell your friends that have watched the show, and I know some people may be away for the off season a bit. Let them know kind of the changes that are going on. Have them subscribe to our page on YouTube. It's just simply called SEC Country, or there on YouTube. Subscribe to that. Subscribe to the podcast. We'll be telling you more details about this. We're going to be very transparent, very open, and we're going to have a lot of fun here. So Wednesday and Thursday, tell anybody that you know that's ever watched the show to really be here to help end this thing the way that it deserves to be ended as we look forward to a brand new future. So tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, please be back. We'll see you then right here on SEC Country Live.